Pushkin.
From BBC Studios and Pushkin Industries, this is Big Lives. I'm Emmanuel Dzotsi.
I'm Wright.
And on this show, what we do is we take a single cultural icon and we break down their life and impact using the BBC's archive. And today, the person that I'm talking about, Kai, is Kylie Minogue.
I don't know a thing about her, so this is going to be an excellent education for me.
There was such a the amount contained in that sigh you just took before you responded to me speaks volumes. I know you don't know anything about it, but when you think of Kylie Minogue, what comes to mind? Like anything?
My boyfriend dancing on a speaker in London, because he has had a massive relationship to Kylie Minogue, which traces back to being in London clubs as a twink.
Okay. Honestly, that makes sense because, and I have to say, even though my relationship is not necessarily dancing to Kylie Minogue in London clubs as a twink, it's not totally dissimilar. My relationship to it, I remember being a kid living in the UK in like 99, 2000, and just anywhere you went, you'd have these absolute bangers that she'd put out. Stuff like this.
Definitely a banger.
Totally. Songs like this one can't get you out of my head. Just like pop personified. And in my brain, actually, as a kid, what I associate that song with is like actually a bunch of older girls in my school throwing glitter on me at a school dance. Like
Okay.
That's what I associate it with. But you have identified a gap here that I want to get into. So Kylie Minogue, massive Australian singer, pop superstar, mostly, at least in my lifetime, in the 90s, early 2000s. Massive when I was a kid. But it's interesting because I moved to the US age 12, and I remember so clearly having a conversation with somebody where we were talking about music, and I remember realizing, oh, nobody, at least in Toledo, Ohio, where I moved to, seemed to know who Kylie Minogue was. And then I was like, oh, a lot of America might not know who Kylie Minogue is. A few years ago, I was having a conversation about Kylie Minogue for like the umpteenth time, and someone asked me just a really basic level question. I'd gotten into this routine where I would say, oh my gosh, you don't know Kylie Minogue? So typical. And I would play Can't Get You Out of My Head or one of these other songs of hers, right? But this person was like, okay, so I get that she's created this cool dance music and it's great, but besides that, I've looked online and it seems like she's so huge, maybe even bordering on iconic. Why is that?
Like, why is she so iconic was the person's question?
Yeah, outside of just the music. And I realized I don't know. And so that has been rumbling in my head a while now, along with one other fact, which is I've lived in New York now about 10 years. And I have finally found a lot of people who also know Kylie Minogue, who are American. And I think what I've just realized, which I thought you were earlier, which is like, oh, the people in America who really love Kylie Minogue, they're gay.
I was going to say, I'm guessing that these are your homosexual friends.
Definitely. Like, newsflash to just me, apparently. She's been a gay icon this whole time. Recently, I was diving into that a little bit, educating myself, and I came across this old article from forever ago where this other singer, this guy Rufus Wainwright, lists a bunch of his personal gay icons. And it was interesting. You've got like Judy Garland, Stevie Nicks, Madonna, just the usual kind of suspects. And then there's like a little bit about Kylie Minogue. And here's what it says. I love Kylie. She's the anti-Madonna. Self-knowledge is truly a beautiful thing, and Kylie knows herself inside out. She is what she is, and there is no attempt to make quasi-intellectual statements to substantiate it. She is the gay shorthand for joy.
Wow. The amount of Madonna shade in that, first off.
Also, this is the thing. I kept coming back to the bit about the anti-Madonna, and reading that, I was like, I don't know what that means. In my life, I don't know that I naturally put Kylie Minogue in definitely not a musical category, totally different to Madonna. She's a pop singer, loves dancing tunes. Obviously, now I know that she's beloved by gay people. I don't know. I was just sort of, what's the difference? So I went into the BBC archives, basically just to try and understand how exactly Kylie built her career, how she became a gay icon, and what that says about the whole generation of female pop stars and their relationship to probably their most important fans.
And maybe a whole generation of gay men too, because I actually don't know how she's not an icon to me, because I think I'm too old, or I was too old by the time she became an icon, and I don't know how she became one either. So This is going to be great.
Exactly. That's what we're going to get into today. Why do people love Kylie Minogue so much in the UK and Australia? And she just never really quite hit the same sort of ubiquitousness here in America. And that's what we'll get into after the break.
You need to spend so much time in the States to cover and to get yourself known that I couldn't spend a year, Kylie Minogue. Oh, you're Australian, right? And I'd rather put pins in my eyes than go through that for a year.
Welcome back to Big Lives. Today we're talking about Kylie Minogue, who, Kai, you know nothing about.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I know the bops, but I don't know her as a person.
Okay, so just to get you some basic facts. So Kylie was born in Australia, in Melbourne, in 1968.
I didn't know she was that old. Not that that's old. It's just much older than I thought she was.
No, honestly, Kai, I share that. I feel like when I actually looked her up, I realized, this person has had a much longer career than I realized. Like, I've only ever known her in the context of my life, which was sort of like late 90s, early 2000s. Her fame is what I remember then. But no, she had a career that really started in a big way in the 80s. And I just got to say right now, like the moment I started digging into her history via the BBC archives, I had this moment where I just felt so stupid. And
oh no.
I felt stupid because I just had completely missed this fact about her that explains so much. Which is Kylie Minogue's career as a public person in Australia begins with this TV program that is an institution. It was an institution in my life as a child. Every day at like 5 or 6 o'clock, I was watching this show, and I am ashamed, and I mean it sincerely, to say that I have not thought about this TV show in many years, and literally the moment I looked at it, I was transported. I'm just going to play this for you.
Neighbors, everybody needs good neighbors, just a friendly wave each morning.
Okay, does that song mean anything to you at all?
It doesn't. Should I be ashamed of myself too?
No, because this is where the cultural divide begins, Kai. So that is the theme song to an Australian soap called Neighbours. Okay. And like, it's funny because I feel like soaps here in the US, they're relegated to sort of midday television, your grandma or your mom or someone else who's watching you when you're homesick from school. That's what you're watching. That is not what Neighbours was as a kid. Neighbours was like tea time television.
Even the fact that there's a such thing as tea time television is our more cultural divide.
But yeah, like when my parents got home from work, that's what was on the television. And it was a phenomenon. Like the reason why it's called Neighbours is because it's a show that's about the goings on in this one neighborhood, on this one street, right, called Ramsay Street in Melbourne, where you have all these different characters and different families. And this show, I don't know how to describe it. It was a soap and it was dramatic, but it wasn't like Days of Our Lives where it's dramatic in like, oh my gosh, so-and-so is cheating on so-and-so with so-and-so. It was kind of slice of lifey in this very wholesome, wonderful way. But more importantly, for our purposes, it was the incubator for so many Australian stars. Like, basically, if you are famous and you are Australian and we know about you outside of Australia, there's a 80% chance you had some role on this show. So Heath Ledger,
Really?
Margot Robbie, the Hemsworth brothers, Guy Pearce, like pretty much every Australian actor has either been on Neighbours or this other big Australian soap, Home and Away. Like, that's the sort of institution this was.
Really? And they all come on like early evening.
For us, yeah. For us in the UK, that's the time. I have no idea what time they showed it in Australia.
Right.
But yeah, I remember on the BBC, you'd have children's programming after school, what they used to call CBBC, on this main channel, BBC One. And then you would have this little break before the news, and that was Neighbours slot. It was literally the transition from like kids programming to the beginning of adult programming. So it was kind of adult, but kind of good for everybody to watch. And I watched that every day.
Which is pop, now that you say it.
100%. And Kylie, she was a main character from the beginning, and really its breakout star from the beginning in 1986, basically like a year the show launched. She played this character named Charlene, who was this tomboyish wannabe mechanic, which is interesting because I don't know, do you know what Kylie Minogue looks like at all?
I'm ashamed to say I don't think I could. I don't think I could point her out. No.
Okay, so Kylie Minogue is a very, very petite white woman. It's the 80s at this point, so she definitely has that curly hair perm. But she has this blonde curly hair perm down to her shoulders kind of deal. And what she does have in spades, even though she's pretty short, is this very perky personality, which definitely goes with both, I think, the attitudes and the vibe of the show, right? Which is that it is, Neighbours is this sort of like kind of happy show. As you could even just hear from the theme song. But also, that was what my image and stereotype of your beach-kissed Australian lass was or something. Like, it was just that
like
sort
perky and pretty and bubbly. And
Totally. But also not afraid to get stuck in. Then also a mechanic. Someone who's down to earth.
Kind of the Australian stereotype, right? Like you're a good
100%.
time. Also, you're not too good for whatever, you know?
Yes, definitely. And she gave an interview in the early 2000s of her just talking about that time on Neighbours and what the significance of the program was, because Neighbours was, you know, of its time in Australia. And it was a surprise even to her and to other cast members that it ended up becoming such a big hit that it became in the UK.
I think the reason that the British like it so much is, for one thing, it's normally sunny. Most days we shot outside, it was raining or overcast, but it does come across as being bright and cheerful. And, you know, it's an ideal sort of world, and we're not in an ideal world. So I guess it's like a fantasy for them. When they get home, 5:45 or whatever time it's on, they switch off. They don't even have to think to watch Neighbours. Everything is spelt out for them. It's like giving it to them on a silver platter. So they just like go off into another world for half an hour and get lost in this pretend land.
I would say when the show first launched, especially in the late 80s, it was appointment television. Like, we are watching to see what happens on Neighbours tonight. And Kylie was like a massive part of that. And through that role, she becomes cemented both in Australia and like in the UK as this girl next door kind of type.
Was she a child star or?
Not really. I mean, she had started acting as like a kid, but by this point, she's like firmly an adult. She's in her like late teens or early 20s.
Gotcha.
But the thing I want you to think about as well is this show, Neighbours, it's almost as if the producers and everybody involved realized the power of this show to sort of make it across oceans from Australia to the UK and to become big. This is really the first of its kind in that way. And so the stars in it start thinking a little bigger. And I at this point, I feel like I want you to think about Neighbours, not just as a soap, not just as a Friends equivalent, but almost the singular equivalent of the Disney Channel Star Machine.
That's what I was starting to think about as you talked. That's kind of why I asked about, was she a child star? Because it sounds like, yeah, the Disney Channel Star Machine. Got it.
Yeah, it's like you have acting, and then literally the way the show sort of handled her fame at that time was obviously she was playing this role, but then she and some of her friends in the show end up forming a band. And they're making music within the world of the show. And you can kind of see where this is going, right?
Yep.
And so what she does is she puts out a song in the late 80s, her first real like big solo career sort of launch. And what that song is this cover of like a 1960s song that I actually, in going through the archive, didn't know about. Like I've definitely heard this song a bajillion times, which is Locomotion.
Yeah.
Do the locomotion.
Yeah.
She did this big cover of it in the 80s that actually was like a global hit. But not that many people know who sung it at all.
I didn't know that was. I know the song you're talking about. I didn't know that was Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't. There's an original one that's really old, right?
No, I remember the cover version, and I didn't know that was Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, that is her, and nobody knows it's her in part because it's not like the song has amazing vocal stylings, right? But what it is it's catchy and it's interesting, and I feel like right there from the beginning, you see, I think in some ways the power of Kylie Minogue, right? But also, I think the anonymity of her in this way, you're just like, oh, it's just a bop. That's what you remember. You don't remember anything else about it. But what that does do for her is it allows her to have a bona fide to start a solo career and sort of team up with producers in the UK who all belong to this production company called Stock, Aitken and Waterman, who at the time were like big hit makers and producers. I'm just going to play you a little bit from the interview where Kylie talks about coming to sort of meet with them in London for the first time.
As the story goes, apparently Pete Waterman had forgotten to tell Matt and Mike that there's this Aussie girl, Charlene from Neighbours. She's waiting in the studio. We need a song. And one of them said, she should be so lucky. And apparently that's how they wrote the song in 30 to 10 minutes. Certainly they didn't have long. But I remember being so nervous, maybe almost to the point of crying nervous. And then we got on a plane and went home, and neither Terry, my manager, or I, we couldn't tell. We didn't know, have we got a song? Have we got the song? It turned out we did have the song.
And so there she's talking about the recording of the song with all these producers. And I'm just going to play you that song.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
I was like, no. What?
I'm sorry. Okay, I know. I'm sorry. I apologize for rickrolling you in the year 2026 of our Lord. But here's the thing. Her early songs sounded very similar to that. And they sounded similar to that because that production factory that she just joined, they had created Rick Astley. They had created that song. And all of those songs that this production team put out sounded very, very similar to each other. And the reason I played Never Gonna Give You Up specifically is because in the early days of Kylie Minogue's career with them, there was actually a conspiracy theory that she and Rick were the same person.
What?
Yes.
Like kind of like a Janet and Michael thing? Like
more than that, the conspiracy theory was that they were the same person, just pitched up or down, which reading about this and learning about this, I was like, no way. But I'm just going to take you on the journey I went on for a second, if you indulge me.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I'm going to play you the actual song that Kylie first recorded, which is this song called I Should Be So Lucky, which is a big hit for her. I'm just going to play you this.
I should be so lucky, 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 lucky. I should be so lucky, love.
So you can hear it, right? You have that driving bass line that's very similar to a Rick Astley song. You've got repetitive lyrics. And I should say, the song is not much more complex than that.
That's
right?
it.
But it is a pop. You know, you can almost see like the dance moves in the music video. Now, I'm just going to play you another version of that same song you just heard that's pitched down.
Oh my God.
Right?
That's the same track, but just pitched down?
That's the same, just pitched down slightly.
It does sound exactly like Rick Astley.
It really does. You could totally understand why this conspiracy theory existed.
Wow. Well, it's also suggests she's so manufactured is like the implication here.
Exactly. That is the implication. And people are not totally into that. And that's the thing, especially because, don't get me wrong, this is a person, right, that they have sort of seen through the beginnings of what will be a major star machine for kind of anybody famous in Australia, right? She's got the Neighbours launching pad. She's got cross Commonwealth appeal, I guess, with the UK. And now she's done a cover of a famous song to launch it. And now she's into this new phase. It's interesting because a lot of her early tape in the BBC archive is her basically having to defend herself.
Oh, wow.
And her producers against those accusations. There's so much of these early interviews that are her saying, I'm not an industry plant.
But was the song a hit?
A decent hit. It wasn't like a mega hit, but it was one of those, it seems like the sort of one-hit wonder earworm that comes and goes, is the way it was interpreted at that time. I'm going to play you a clip of her talking about just what it was like to work with those producers and kind of defending her work with those producers, which is she's basically saying, listen, I get the criticism, but we're making bangers.
They get an awful lot of undue criticism simply because they're successful. They're not magic. They don't touch something and it just works. They are where they are because of experience and being professional and being talented. And the pressure that they're under to keep coming up with hit songs is, I mean, I don't even know how many hit songs they've written, but for people trying to write one, that can be difficult. So I really respect and admire them. If that's what they're good at doing, and I'm good at singing and projecting an image, well, we should stick to our own areas, and that's why we're having so much success.
It's kind of weird that she has to defend working with, like, hit makers.
Yeah. But listen, the criticism, it's interesting. I think we live in an era now where music criticism, I don't know if it's nicer or if I just don't hear the critics from Rolling Stone who hate things. You know what I mean? But some of the things people said about her back then were pretty harsh. I mean, at that time, there was a radio DJ at the BBC who literally decided, instead of having Kylie on his show, interviewed a cardboard cutout of her because he was just like, that's how much personality she has. That's how much people were questioning her. So I guess she felt like she had to do this. But what's interesting is in these same interviews where she is having to defend how manufactured she is, and you can just hear in her voice, one, I think, both a rebuttal to that fact that she's a cipher with no personality and is not really a person, and also her beginning to get a very solid worldview about herself, which is just, I'm going to be who I am and kind of be that well. I'm just going to play you this clip from an interview that she do in 2000.
People don't give you credit for being, what's the word I'm looking for? For being not like the opposite to arty, commercial. Yeah, people don't give you credit for being commercial, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are all art for art's sake that would kill to be played on the radio or to have fans writing to them or to have a number one hit. And then on the other hand, there's people that say they're art for art's sake and yet will appear on the cover of smash hits. So that's contradictory in itself. But you have to have a talent to have worldwide appeal. I mean, a mass appeal, I should say. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. And people try to put you down and say, oh, well, you just manufactured, you're a puppet. And if I was a manufactured product, I wouldn't still be here. I wouldn't be able to sit in this room now talking, without someone hand up my back moving my mouth for me, you know.
There's something in her voice in some of these interviews, the way she stumbles over her words, all these sorts of things where you're just like, this does not feel polished in some ways, you know what I mean? But there is a sincerity there, you know what I mean?
There is absolutely a sincerity there. She can't come up with the word commercial, you know, but in the process of being like, so I'm commercial, like you don't want to be, like you ain't trying to make money and be popular too, you know?
Right. It feels like she's just honest. And here's the thing. She's got her critics, But as we alluded to at the beginning of this, she has her fans too. And that's what we're going to get into after the break, which is basically how Kylie's audience finds her. Welcome back to Big Lines. Today, we're talking about Kylie Minogue. And where we left off, Kai, we were talking about Kylie kind of being a bit of a target in the late 80s, right?
Because she's plastic and manufactured.
Right, plastic and manufactured. And I feel like a big reason a lot of that conversation was happening was because there was something else kind of in the ether at this time. We're now in really what at least I consider to be peak Madonna.
There are several peak Madonna periods, I have to say, but yeah, if we're in the late 80s, that is one of them.
The late 80s, exactly. And, you know, Kylie is doing a sort of dancey pop where basically the whole point is just the good time you're having, right? As you can hear in these interviews, there's no artistic statement. She's out here literally just defending bops for commercial sake, right?
Locomotion.
Locomotion, exactly. And meanwhile, across the ocean in America, there is this woman, Madonna, who's a global pop sensation, who is making bangers, sure, but I think is making bangers that are having such a big cultural impact as more than just bangers. And all around the world, I feel like I have this image in my brain in the late 80s and early 90s before I was born, which is just everybody is just vibing to Madonna. And one of the songs that they're vibing to, especially in 1990, is Vogue.
Yes.
And here's this thing where I'm not going to sit here and tell you about Vogue, but I want you to tell me about it. Like, what was that like?
So Madonna throughout the 80s, it's not just the music. People are vibing to her. People are also arguing about her constantly because she is a provocateur throughout the 80s, you know? I mean, and she's constantly doing this thing where she's selling sex but not selling sex and, you know, asserting her right to be sexy in public, you know? And then she's really rubbing up against Black queer culture a lot. You know, which is what Vogue is, which feels like in the late 80s an intentional provocation. So she's constantly provoking with things that are kind of sexy and illicit. And I can see why that would compare someone like Kylie Minogue in the way you're describing her would be ungenerously compared to Madonna in that time. Part of the argument over Madonna was like, is she like putting all this on? She's deliberately provocative and she's like, as folks says, strike a pose.
Right, exactly. Striking a pose, wearing it as a costume for shock value. Around the same time, Kylie is sort of getting flack for being kind of a knockoff Madonna. But she herself is Kylie is undergoing her own sort of shift, right? She's, at this point, been a couple years out of the, like, sort of Disney Channel machine that is Neighbors, right? The 80s are becoming the 90s. She has continued her acting career. She starred in a couple movies, and she's trying to shed the character that she played on Neighbors, right? That sort of happy-go-lucky, sunny, innocent little girl, basically. And so she's working on new music that leans more into her sexiness. She comes out with a song called Better the Devil You Know. That, I should say, is a bop, but the music video is way more suggestive. Gone are sort of the curly, permy lock. This is someone who you're just like, oh, this is whoever I grew up with Kylie being. And at the same time, Kylie notices this thing happening in Sydney, in Australia. And I'm just going to play you an interview she gave about it not too long ago, actually, about this moment.
I think it was 1990, around 1990, and I was in Sydney, and there's a very famous gay bar on Oxford Street in Sydney, and they were doing a Kylie night this night, which I'd never heard of and never been to. And I remember being in the car with whoever it was, but I know my manager at the time was in there. I said, we should go. And he said,
no, like that's just gonna be too much organisation, or we didn't have time, or whatever. But in that moment, I thought, oh my God, what is that? And I heard that there were people dressed as me, and it sounded like a good time.
So people dressed as me, obviously, is what she's describing was a drag show
of Kylie.
of Kylie.
So by this point, they're already doing Kylie drag in 1990.
Exactly. By this point, they're already doing Kylie drag. And what's happened is, even amongst all of the criticism, right, and the manufactured, there's a group of people who have loved Kylie's music from the beginning. And that is the gay community in places like Sydney or in London, New York. And so it's this thing where she's not really taking from queer culture as much as it is that queer culture sort of taking her music and giving meaning to it.
Honestly, it's interesting when I don't know anything about that time in Sydney and the queer community and so forth, but like the idea that she was a manufactured star would be attractive in a drag setting, right? Like that's part of the point, is the artifice, you know? And I could totally see why, if there had been this whole debate about this woman who makes great music, is she too manufactured? It makes total sense that what follows is that drag queens start doing her numbers. And that's part of what you're doing with drag, you know, is commenting on artifice and performance and, you know, what is real and what isn't, you know?
But she makes an interesting choice here, which is throughout the 90s, career-wise, Kylie's sort of pop career is a little bit on and off. She takes some really interesting creative diversions. So she ends up doing more indie projects. She collaborates with artists like Nick Cave. Even though she's seen as this big manufactured pop star, she kind of takes these steps to move away from that a little bit. Mm-hmm. And yet, there was one sort of venue where she was very happy to revisit, like, the music she was singing in the 80s and the early 90s. And what that is queer spaces. So within 4 years of realizing, oh, right, I have a bunch of gay fans and I'm being portrayed by drag queens in Sydney, Kylie is performing at big queer events. So in 1994, there's a kind of iconic performance that she gives at Sydney's Mardi Gras celebration. Do you know anything about this?
It's about Sydney's Mardi Gras as a big queer event.
Yes. It's interesting because I feel like I was talking to a friend of mine who's Australian about this, and I was like, oh, so it's like a pride celebration. And she was like, yeah, except we take over the city. It's a major event. And it's interesting, you watch these performances of Kylie at this event, and they are electric. I'm talking Kylie singing songs like I Should Be So Lucky, surrounded by 50 men in the tightest spandecky underwear type deals that you could imagine. Like spectacular images. And she nurtures that. You know what I mean? Even though she sees herself as this serious artist, she performing at these different pride celebrations and things like that around the world, giving those fans what they want, right? Which is her original dancey, quote unquote, manufactured music. And towards the end of the 90s, her sort of indie artist phase has ended. She's looking for a new direction. And where does she go? She kind of goes to an updated version of that early dance music that she was doing. And this brings me to the album that I was introduced to her via, which is this album called Light Years that came out in 2000. I feel like everywhere that me and my mum at this time used to spend a lot of time in the car together, like ferrying around to different activities. My family had moved outside of London for the first time, so we'd have these long drives back to the city. And I remember listening to this album with my mum on repeat. And I remember being stopped at traffic lights and realizing that the car next to us was also bumping this album. That's how ubiquitous it was. And there's this song in it that is one of my favorite dance songs of all time called Spinning Around. Do you know this song?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, man. I re-listened to it for the first time in a while. And it is joy personified. You know, Rivers Wainwright is talking about how she's the gay shorthand for joy. I don't know necessarily as a straight person what gay joy is specifically, but if I had to guess,
It's
this song
Kylie
does-
Minogue singing Spinning Around.
So it kind of starts with what I call sort of like her supernova era of her career. And this is the era in which she's making just straight bangers. You know what I mean? Like Spinning Around, Can't Get You Out of My Head. And all of it is suspended in this very knowingly campy disco kind of vibe. Like that's the whole point of it. Is it's ridiculous. It's music made for the club. And specifically, I think really knowingly made for gay clubs.
For gay clubs, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this is the era in which my boyfriend was dancing on speakers in London gay clubs to Kylie Minogue. So my question is, there was a period in the 90s, thinking about Kylie Minogue being taken up by the gay community, there was a period in the 90s where, at least in my experience, was the first time they started really aggressively marketing things at us, where vodka, Absolute Vodka became the like drink of the gay community because they would constantly have to do ads directed at us. And I wonder, it sounds like Kylie and her team were savvy about the fact that gay people liked her. So how much was she the beginning of that process of seeing that there's commercialism, there's money to be made in appealing to gay people?
So we'll never know probably like exactly how calculated it was, right? I mean, she's in the record of just saying it was sort of like a natural connection that happened. But here's the thing. There are these key points where you can see her definitely embracing gay culture and doing things that like gay people in particular really responded to. So a big example is her big hits, like Spinning Around. She's wearing this particular kind of outfit. She's wearing these kind of too small, like gold pants. And what I mean by gold pants is like gold underpants in the video, Spinning Around, Dancing Around. And those pants were a suggestion by this famous gay designer who was like, just put these on in the video. Trust me, put these on. And
I'm looking at a picture of it now, and it's like short shorts.
yes,
Pants is a strong name
shorts.
for what we're looking at.
And yeah, it feels like they were making these choices like to sort of cause conversation with a demographic that up until that point, I feel like, had been not taken seriously. Like she'd had gay fandom from the beginning. But those critics who derided her didn't see those fans as like valuable.
Right.
They were just like, oh, you're not artistic, you're manufactured, but never thinking about the people that music was manufactured for. Or like who liked it. It's big for a reason. Who's buying these records?
Right.
And I do feel like there's sort of eye rolly thing because really the people who were buying Kylie records in the 80s famously were little kids who love a song Locomotion and just gay queens having the time of their lives.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because around this time, she's interviewed a lot about like, wow, you are such a big star, right? And it's interesting because one thing I think you can always bet on the Brits to do is we'll adopt anybody who has even like a tangential relationship to us if they seem like they're becoming a global phenomenon.
Well, that is very United Kingdom.
It's very. And like she's Australian, but because of her time on Neighbours, because of her stardom, the British public, which, a lot of which was very snarky about her in her early days, now is fully claiming her. And of course, around this time, she goes on the big talk show in the UK, which we've talked about previously on this show, Parkinson show.
Our old friend.
Our old friend Parky. And goes on there. And I have to say, she is so effortlessly charming. And it's this nice interview where she's just basically very much herself, relatable, sweet, funny, whatever. And Parky asked this question that is direct, but honestly was, I think for our purposes, is very useful, which is he asks her, okay, so like, you went through all that criticism early in your career. People wrote you off as a disposable nothing, basically. Why didn't you become that?
I mean, how come that you didn't become disposable? See, what is it in you that's I mean...
Well, it's the $64,000 question. I don't know. And I'm more comfortable not knowing. I would probably mess it up. There's an immense goodwill towards me, and as you mentioned in the intro, with this living in this country and the way people have pretty much adopted me. I really don't know.
And so on the one hand, she's like, I don't know. And if I did know, I would probably mess it up. But there's something happening between the lines here that is not really being said, which is the answer is, well, gay people have kept me alive, Michael. And I don't know necessarily what it is that I've done to deserve their love. And I definitely don't want to mess it up. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on. And I just want to return here to how we started this show, which was we were talking about Rufus Wainwright saying, right, Kylie is sort of the anti-Madonna. Now, I didn't know what that means. And I don't know, I guess to me it seems the difference here is you have this person who has become a gay icon who doesn't really overthink it. Like, do you feel like that is a difference?
I mean, I didn't know about Kylie, but now that I do, the point is that Madonna tries really hard to get attention, and I mean, she wrote a book. She made movies about her sex life.
Right.
She just really does the most and did the most from the beginning and wanted it to be super intellectual and wanted to appear as a performance artist and all of this. And it sounds like Kylie was like, I'm happy to go to the club and have fun, y'all. Let's go.
Totally. Like, even by the early 2000s, when I was a kid, like, Madonna is still doing things in that sort of provocateur artist lane, so to speak.
Right.
Whereas my memories of Kylie in the early 2000s, outside of her music, are these very... I don't know if relatable is necessarily the word, and maybe it's overused, but she's going through things in her life that I feel like, oh, she's just like a regular person. I remember it was big, big news when in 2005, Kylie got diagnosed with breast cancer. But the way that people responded to that and the way she responded to it was really to kind of like almost take a little bit of a step back while also being this big, big advocate for just like awareness about breast cancer in women. It was almost like in that period of her career, the music was not really the thing she was focusing on. And I think maybe because of that, she was so loved. And I think this person who's human, and I think no small part of her appeal to so many people, to gay people, to not, is also that she did come through that period of criticism. And everybody loves like a comeback story in that kind of way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like you're saying from a fairly early in her career, actually. I mean, if we're talking about the early 90s, where she notes that they're doing drag about her and she's like, great,
Yeah.
all the way through now. Everybody likes somebody who's like consistently on your side, I mean, she was clear from the beginning, like, okay, gay people like me, I like gay people.
100%. And watching some of like the criticism about her, listening to it, I'm like, oh, some of this kind of reminds me of, do you remember what happened to Dua Lipa a couple years ago where she was performing and someone commented on one of her videos of her performing at a concert, like, go girl, give us nothing?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Okay. But I feel like there's this thing that we do in culture sometimes, which is weird. You see someone out there who you know is talented, right? But you are just sort of like, I know what you are. And you know what you are. And it's funny, we make fun of those people, but I also think we love those people intensely, where we're just like, good for you for doing the thing and making songs that I love and not trying to make it more than that.
And then I can go to the club and have fun, and I have memories of my fun time with your music, not like I have to debate how much meaning it has in the world and in the culture. And, that's certainly how, again, my entire relationship, this Kylie Minogue, is through my boyfriend, but that is absolutely how he talks about her.
Totally, totally. Well, I hope this has cleared up some of the mysteries around Kylie for you.
Here's my question. Can
Yes.
I watch Neighbors now? Is that a thing that I can go see somewhere?
Well, okay. So the answer, as with everything on the internet, is yes.
Okay, well, I need to go down a little bit of internet rabbit hole to see this early Kylie Minogue on Neighbors.
You got to do it.
Well, thank you for this.
Thank you.
So, who's up next for me? Who do you got?
Well, you know, this is going to be interesting because I find this person's life story super endearing.
Okay.
And they're kind of quirky in that, like, they managed to be like super niche and like mass celebrity at the same time. And I'm just super curious whether you have any relationship to this at all. So
Okay.
let's just play our clips and see if you even recognize them.
I love it.
After 1969, the gay liberation movement began. And there they were, these guys and gals sacrificing everything and loudly advocating just, you know, to be liberated, to be able to hold a job.
Bit of a curveball for you, so you may not recognize.
Yeah, it's interesting because whoever it is sounds older in that clip.
Uh-huh.
But the way they're talking about gay rights and other things makes me, I'm having a hard time placing them. I'm interested.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a curveball clip. All right,
Okay.
let's go for the next one.
Suddenly, we saw two soldiers marching up our driveway carrying rifles with shiny bayonets on them, stomped up the front porch, and with their fists started pounding on the door.
Anything yet?
No. I mean, the sad truth of it is that I asked myself a question in my brain. I was like, what incidents in American history are troops or paramilitary like coming up to somebody's front door? And it's actually a lot.
You got to think for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
One more. Here we go.
You will also appear to have killed him after a fierce battle.
Oh.
Regrettable, but it will leave me in command.
Yeah, I saw it flash. I saw it flash across your face.
Oh man, I am so excited for this. Let's go.
Okay, so
I'm
this
into
does
it.
mean something to you.
It
Okay,
does mean
all
something
right.
for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's next week.
Big Lives is a production of BBC Studios and Pushkin Industries. It's hosted by me, Emmanuel Dzotsi, and Kai Wright. Our team over at BBC Studios includes producer Emma Reverell, archive producer Samira Chowdhury, sound design by Melvin Rickaby. Our executive producer is Annie Brown. Our production coordinator is Galen Davis Connolly. And our production manager is Mabel Finnegan Wright. Our apprentice is Amy Woods. And our executive producer is James Robinson. The team over at Pushkin Industries includes executive producer Constanza Goyardo, producer Daphne Chen, our legal advisor is Jake Flanagan, and our marketing team includes Morgan Ratner and Jordan McMillan.